Welcome to the SaaS Execution Podcast, where we talk about the methods, habits, and tools founders can use to align their teams and translate ideas into action. Because ideas are cheap, execution is priceless. I'm Scott Ward, founder of HabitStack, and I am here today with Tisha Cable, who is the founder and the CEO of CModel.io, co-founder. Tisha, thanks for joining me today. I'm really excited to have a chat.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so CModel Data or at CModel.io. Tell me a little bit about what it is and why you built it.
Sure. So CModel is a decision intelligence company. And what we do is we help to take fragmented decisions and turn it into a structured, learnable system for a business. I built the company because fragmented decision making is a very, very, very troublesome area for most companies who are just strictly trying to grow. Right. And when you're trying to do that and you have knowledge silos, you have knowledge gaps in the company, you have people putting all of their decisions in different tools, people not taking the thoughts out of their head and ever writing them down. When all of those things happen,
Those things don't happen, Tisha. That never happens, that stuff.
they happen every day. I tell people every single person in every company who is a knowledge worker has their favorite spreadsheet,
Yeah.
for
Oh, yeah.
example. And so, unfortunately, that information never makes it into the core process of decision making in a company. And so, we're here to adjust that.
I like it. So was this something that you experienced at a prior company and thought, man, I got to fix that? Or well, tell me about that.
Absolutely. So, in my career, I've been everything from a VP of business operations, revenue operations, biz dev, and product strategy. I mean, you name it. In the operational front, I've done it. And so, typically, this problem shows itself when you get the budget and realize that you've overspent because you didn't properly account for challenges or different value realization issues when you decided to do a thing, right? Uh, this problem shows itself in companies when there are competing priorities and you can't seem to find your way around it. And so, therefore, no decision gets made and something just sort of falls out. And so, in my career, absolutely, this has been a tremendous issue. And then, as I've gone down the journey of my career, what I've also found is that all of this abundance of data just further confuses everyone, right? No one knows what's the right data that I need at the right time. They don't know, should I be tracking this metric or we're going to track all the metrics,
Oh, yeah.
right? But we don't take into account the cost of tracking all the metrics because for every piece of data that I collect, I've got to have an adequate process in order to capture that data, and processes require people. And even when you run a process with automation, you've still got to have checks and balances on that process to ensure that the data that you're capturing
Yeah.
is accurate, right?
Yeah.
It just
But
goes
then,
on.
yeah, sorry. Then not to mention when you have too many metrics, the mental processing to make any kind of decision out of those 50 metrics, you're not going to, you just, by the end of you get to the end of the list, you're fried, you know?
Correct. And what was it for anyway? I mean, the most
Yeah.
common CEO question is always like, well, what does it mean? Right? What's the why behind this? What do I do with this information that you've given me? So I've learned the hard way, even in my career, that I may do a beautiful job on a spreadsheet. I might think I just gave somebody the most fantastic set of information, but it could have very little use,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
In the scenario that they're in. I mean, if I'm deciding whether or not to hire somebody, telling me just the revenue numbers isn't really going to help me now, is it?
Hmm. Hmm. So what have you found in terms of, oh, okay, actually a couple of questions about the business and the product itself. So, um, is it something that you're sucking data in? Or is it actually about mostly people are entering the data, but it's a way for them to reason about it?
Yeah, so it's a combination. We want to have understand your current state. And so there's definitely connecting to your data sources so that that data is available
Like
in
you
your
pull in stuff from the CRM or whatever, and
in your
got it.
financials if necessary. Your favorite spreadsheet is my number one thing, is your
Yeah.
favorite spreadsheet. spreadsheet is a really good source of data.
Yeah.
Then there's also what you create in our system.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Do you find that there's a certain size? Are there inflection points around leadership team size or employee count or industry? I don't know. What are the kind of what goes into it's useful to everybody, but it's really useful at a certain point, right? What are the points?
So I think that it's really useful at the point where an organization has multiple people that need to be a part of the decision making process. So it doesn't mean that an earlier stage company can't utilize our tool. We hope that we can support them to grow right along the way by having good practice. But really, by the time you've got a leadership team of 4 or 5 people and teams beneath that, that need to be able to understand why they're being asked to
Yeah.
execute a strategy.
Yeah.
At that point, you need to have tools like ours in place, all the way up until you're a very mature organization and really need to measure the outcomes of your strategy.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
the way that I plug it is I say, if you take a survival stage company, right, maybe a company that's taken venture capital, if it's a technical based company, or
Yeah.
they've got some reason why they're beholden to their metrics, and they must prove that they can get to certain milestones. Those companies make excellent customers of ours because it enables us to tie the things together to prove whether or not they're getting from one milestone to the next.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how's it going? I mean, what's that? How are you marketing and salesing your way to success here? This other founders are always curious, like what's working for people, and talk to us a little bit about that.
We found that educating the group, so decision intelligence isn't something that's been widely utilized up to this point, right? So if we think about the democratization of AI outside of the academic sphere, decision intelligence has been even more held back, right? You've got a few companies over the years that have done like AI based intelligence that they call decision intelligence. But when we talk about true causal inference, if I do this, then this will happen. Should I do this? Can I do that? It's a much more complex
Mm.
uh case. And so it hasn't been widely available. So we believe that a lot of education is important. Thus, I'm here. Thus, you'll see I do a lot of writing about these topics. And I do that because we've got to be able to make sure people understand the process that's tied to decision intelligence and then be able to apply it to their everyday lives. So, what we're doing right now is we spend a lot of time doing that. I host
Mhm.
events and do workshops and masterminds and things like that that bring people in, get them really close to the information so that they understand it. And as soon as the light bulb clicks on, now all of a sudden I'm converting customers. Now, not every sale of a piece of software requires that because if you're just sort of replacing day to day activity, no problem. But in our case, it's associated with the mindset shift,
Right.
right? We
Right.
call it's Robins who want to be Batman, right? And so I want to go from where I am to somewhere else, which means I have to think differently. That thinking differently process it takes a little bit of education to get there. So
Hmm.
there we are. So we're doing it. We're doing it at the stage of growth that we are successfully.
Hmm.
The goal would be to now turn that into an exponential mission, which is the mission we're on today.
Hmm. Yeah, playing around with what you built, I really like um, a lot of it. One of the things that jumped out at me is well, it's something that I talk to people about quite a bit is doing the napkin math of what something is, how to measure one thing against another. I could spend my quarter on this, or I could spend my quarter on that. Well, how are you going to decide? And you've basically laid that out, right? It's the high impact, low impact, and revenue, and short term, long term, and all these different variables. You've kind of formalized napkin math, which is really kind of like interestingly, it's not something that people do. They don't do it
They
basically.
don't because it's difficult to do,
Yeah.
right? I have to understand the variables in order to do
Mhm.
it. And what we're hoping is that we take some of that guesswork out for you.
Right.
Uh, and you always have a smart start in deciding what the variable is. You start at no blank page,
Right.
our tool, right? And that's very, very important because we want you to document, even if it's just your assumption, take that assumption out of your head and write it down so that we can make it good and useful information for you.
Yeah.
And that napkin map is a perfect example of that. How much time does it take to do this stuff, right?
Right.
When will I see value of this if I do it? Most people can't just think of that stuff off the top of their head. Not because they can, but they want to validate it. So I won't write it down a lot of times because I'm terrified that it won't be right.
Mhm.
So in this case, it's not about being right. It's about having a starting place and then measuring whether or not how wrong you were,
Mhm. Yeah.
whether or not you actually hit the goal.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's a, you know what? We're going to improve, we're going to make some efficiency gains. Okay, great. But how we're going to measure that? And there's a series of, it's not rocket surgery, but it's also kind of like, well, okay, we do that. How often a month does it happen? And how long does it take each time? And what is that person's time? Where, all those things that I think you're right. I think the blank page thing is really, really a challenge, especially because we're all so harried and, we're trying to going to set our goals and slam them in as fast as we can, and we need a little help. And so just
Yeah.
having a proposal like, well, here are the variables. AI, sometimes I'll just do this with, just straight ChatGPT or something, and it's not bad at, like, proposing some variables, and, um, the numbers are wacky, right? The numbers are, but that's not that important because that we can work, we can do. Once the skeleton is there, we can
Yeah.
start to fill it in. So, yeah, I think, you're right, the applying, you've done a good job, I feel like, of integrating AI. Cora is your co
Quora is the AI, and she's a decision intelligent bot. So she's always got, causal connections in place. She's got a database behind her that goes well beyond just what's in artificial in the open models.
ChatGPT or whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you can tell that because you also will put your profile in and she'll start to work with you contextually once you build
So
your
where's
profile.
that data from, Tisha? Like, yeah. I mean, if
Yeah.
you tell me,
So
I guess.
what we've done is over the course of years, number one, there's an extensive amount of that data that comes from work that I've done over years. And we have about a 45,000 line base of information that just sort of compiles this info and spits it out at the right place, right?
Mhm.
And we also have something that we call an expert exchange. So why do we have that? Because we know that human beings who've sat in the room and actually experienced something can look at information sometimes and go, what I would recommend as a next step is X. And we're not always looking to boil the ocean, right? When you need a recommendation, sometimes you just need it to be reflective of your current state. Oh, you have a high accounts receivable turnover ratio. What does one typically do when that happens?
Mhm.
Well, if you're also in this industry and you're also this company size, then this is what you might do based on benchmarks and based on
Right,
what I've seen in companies like this. So
right.
we've started to document that information, and then that's a part of what we offer to our users. Now, effectively, you start to disrupt basic consulting, right?
Mhm,
Now
mhm.
the consultant can't come in there and be like, I'm going to spend 30 years assessing your company and charge you for it.
Right, right.
I'm going to come back and give you a list of 30 things to do, but I'm not going to help you do them. Like now it's at the point with tools like ours that the consultant is fairly disrupted, but we work with you, consultant, because we don't want you to lose out, right? But we do want you to be more helpful and hands on with
Mhm,
these companies as you go through to help them to make better decisions faster about what it is they need to do. And then ultimately help them execute where they have real gaps, right?
mhm,
Not just where we go in and say, this is my expertise. If it is your expertise, then you know how to help these companies to go from where they are to the next stage,
mhm,
right? Help them to solve their problems by helping them execute a little bit better. So that's like a side use case of our tool, but it's also one that when you think about a company growing, is kind of foundational because you don't grow alone, right?
Yeah.
You grow with support. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we've just packaged some parts of that up.
I think what's interesting about what you're talking about is that you're playing in the space of not just how to execute something, but what to do, right? What
And
to do is really and why. Yeah, this
right,
is these are hard questions.
yeah,
And yeah, I would say, HabitStack, for example, is a piece of software that helps people get really good at consistently executing against something, not as good at helping them decide what the heck to do, right?
right.
That's kind of and I think there's other tools like that as well. I don't know if you um yeah, I'm kind of curious what tools you see yourself similar to or in the
Well,
same category as.
what's so interesting about that question is there are companies I've seen that have stuff in them. I think the fundamental difference, so the fundamental thing that I see for our company that is special is what I'll say is it's not the what to do and why question is not a small question. So you might see something give you a recommendation. So we're in the age of AI. So there are a number of tools that can give you recommendations across the scope of many things.
Hmm.
But our tool is not going to give you a recommendation without asking you questions, right? Our entire purpose is to assess why. That's the more important part. And to then prove it with evidence so that as you start to think through what to do and why, then now you can transfer that information from one group in the company to the next to the next. And the entire goal is to not just take a strategy, as there are also companies that help you build strategy.
Yeah, yeah. Who are you thinking of there? Like Cascade is a big one.
And
Yeah,
exactly, some of those, well, those are great tools, right? But the strategy relies on then how is it then executed? And most of the time, that 1% that produced the strategy lose all the ROI on the execution
yeah,
because there's no answer to why this is a thing from the very beginning. And so, how to get to why becomes a much more challenging space for folks. And so that's why our system exists. And this is why causal inference and decision intelligence, the action to outcome portion is so important in our tool. And then, of course, you're combining artificial intelligence with data and analytics because in our tool, you can connect, right? Your systems. In our tool, you can add your knowledge sources, right? And track them over time and then be able to keep causal connections between every action and outcome. I haven't seen anything so specific on this market. It doesn't mean that there aren't people doing variant versions, but just not so in the way that we're
right, right.
now. I'm not claiming at all that we're the only ones in the market. I'd
Right.
never say such a silly thing,
Yeah.
but and I'll take from what people say when they're in our system, they haven't necessarily seen anything just like it, especially when they see a fully laid out
Yeah,
version.
I would agree. I haven't seen anything quite like it. I mean, there's overlaps and similar, strategy and execution and decision making language, but in terms of what you're doing, it is kind of an interesting, unique thing. So the I have an idea that could be wrong, but I want to check it with you. That
Okay.
I feel like a founder, maybe somebody who's listening, didn't necessarily wake up this morning at 3 a.m. thinking to themselves, I need to get some decision intelligence software right away.
Right.
So, okay, your laugh tells me that that has been your finding as well.
Yeah.
So, like, what are the things that they're experiencing? I mean, so they do wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning worrying about things, and some of those things are connected to what you're up to. So, what are the things that are connected?
So one of the things that they want to do, we talked about it already, is they ask themselves, what do I do to achieve my goals and know
Yeah,
why? Yeah, they're always asking themselves that question. The next thing that they do is for every idea that floats through their head, they go, can I do this? Should I do this? And what would happen if I did this? And our tool explicitly helps them to answer those questions.
Right.
And so that's really, I would say, the number one thing. And the other thing is when I ask what would happen if I do this, that enables me to be able to change if I get off course. So where am I? Right? Is in there. And if I go and make this adjustment to it could even be if I change my go-to-market strategy and I decide to do something different today, what's gonna happen to my revenue? What's gonna happen to my expenses? What's gonna happen to the number of customers that I'm expecting to get as per my financial model?
Mm.
Right? Those are the kinds of things. And at some point, I might decide maybe I'm on a different mission and therefore my whole company needs to pivot. So those kinds of things are what the founder is likely trying to tackle. I mean, it's a messy game out here where you're operating every day and you're just sort of figuring out what to do. I'll give you an example. So our company, we use our own tool.
Sure.
And there was a stage where we were kind of in and out, right? And so we were in and our flow was smooth. And amongst the people in the company, I never had anyone say, I don't know what to do right now. I don't know what to focus on at this moment. And their creativity was sort of finding itself all over the place. I had less to do in
Right.
some because people were able to pick up and go off and create because they understood the entire goal at hand and knew exactly why.
Hmm.
And had a moment where there was a change and I needed to do something differently because it moves fast, but I didn't change my decision guides, which is the core of my thing.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, because I didn't make that change and I just decided we were going to do something different,
Right.
left the rest of my team outside of the decision making process. And now I couldn't get the value of all of their creativity, nor could I get the value of how quickly they were able to produce things before, because all of a sudden they were now left without this like really clear focus on what we needed to do by when and how that was connected to this. And if I did this, it was connected to that.
Right.
So one thing disconnected the org and it took up time.
Right.
And that time is the most valuable thing that we have as founders,
Mm.
right? How we utilize our time is super important. That focus is critical and key because I could spend time building something that's going to have very little impact on our future, right? Just because I
Doesn't
decided to
that just make you feel sick, right? When you look
it
back and realize, oh, if we
a
didn't do
hundred
that just,
percent. A hundred- I'm so sorry. Yeah, 100%.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so do you, I mean, I would imagine that you have founders that you talk to and say, look, Tisha, sounds good. Yeah, I would like to have a better way of guiding my decisions and guiding the decisions of the team and everything. But it seems like it's going to take a lot of mental energy to onboard onto this thing and to figure it out and to, make it so that, to document the things that are in my head. How do you, and I think maybe just to extrapolate to a wider application for people listening, some of us do have products that have some switching costs or some onboarding challenges, that it's not just turn it on and you're getting value from it. How do you overcome that? Yeah, how do you overcome that?
Yeah. The first thing is I'm very clear on who our customer is not. Right. So if I come across founders or folks who have no interest in making the best decision, right? If it's not really your thing, you're comfortable with what you're doing, there's a place where 90% of companies go, and that's to die in so many years. Right. And so I believe that there's a mindset that is required to think in the way of decision intelligence. And so that's my first one. And there's an elite few of companies that actually survive and make it, right? And if you look at what it took for those companies to survive and make it, they didn't take the easy way out, right? They typically often go through the trials, right? They learn lessons along the way. They are diligent, they are disciplined, and they figure it out. The ones who make it. So there is no like not doing the work that we're talking about. We just offer you a better, more precise way of doing this work so that you can actually make it to the next phase of growth, and not only make it, but make it there and know how you got there so that you can repeat and do better on your way and
Mm,
probably accelerate as you continue to grow.
mhm.
So it's not for everybody, right? There are some founders who are going to find, oh, it's a lot to onboard. I need to know what my Tam, Sam, and Sam are in real life. Well, if that's too hard for you, then hey, what can I say? You're
Yeah.
probably not a good candidate for what we're doing here. But if that's something that you want to turn into something that's not just a PowerPoint slide, but something that you can actually use to filter your go-to-market strategy, then we're here to help you to navigate that. If so that's kinda how I see it.
Yeah.
I don't get to take shortcuts. I've not met a successful founder who told me they took shortcuts in order to be, successful in my business career. I hadn't met a successful CEO who was just like, "Hey, we can just get there way easy." I don't
Mhm.
think it's not easy. This is not the game for the easy, and you probably know that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, but most wouldn't say that it's easy, but I think there is a feeling, and there is a feeling of, "I know what to do. I know what to do." I can feel it. I can see it. I can feel it, and if only my team would see it too, and do what they need to do, it's gonna work out. Basically, it's kind of like it's the yeah, it's like the solo founder with a team kind of model where it's hard to slow down enough to show your work. If we're talking in a math thing,
Yeah,
because they feel like they already know, and maybe that's to your point, um, around have leadership teams, right? But basically, if there's a leadership team, and you got to there's lots more work required than just kind of
sure.
waking up with a good idea.
But as a solo founder, it's fascinating you should say that because we all want to know, right? So the one thing is to have a clear vision, right? I've got a clear vision, and I want to execute it. But under no circumstance am I going to build a company alone. So whether or not at the earliest stages I'm working with mentors or I'm working with advisors, whatever it is, I'm working with somebody because there is no building by yourself. That's not realistic. We just offer you a better way to work with people, a
Mhm,
better way to get inputs in the right place, and a better way to align on that vision that you have. Also, a better way to assess it, because the truth is, we can think we already know, and we'll find ourselves, like I said, in the graveyard of companies because that's the status quo right there. We're saying just go ahead and try it a little differently because to win, you're gonna have to do that anyway. So
mhm.
you're 100% right. A lot of people already know. I start most conversations, even with my team, like my vision is so great. I just want y'all to do what I want y'all to do. But ultimately, I know better. I've hired these wonderful people because
Yeah.
they have something to add to what I believe are awesome ingredients. And so none of us are going anywhere by ourselves in real life. And so the sooner that we understand that, and the sooner we can filter information and knowledge in to help us the way we need to
Mhm,
go, or we actually get to the vision.
mhm. Yeah. So do you you mentioned something about one use case or one useful thing is being able to prove, like, for example, if you venture back, you can show that we're making progress. These are the levers that we're pulling, and it's working, and it extrapolates to the right direction. Do you ever see VCs like mandating it? Like, do you have advocates who are the evangelists, are the VCs like, you're gonna use this tool because I need to know?
I think when we get a number of VCs. Now, VCs, the one challenge is that they don't often mandate much, right?
Right.
But I think that when they start to understand that this is about measuring their ROI, I will likely get VCs in. We just built the part of our tool that enables them to look in to many. So essentially, a really smart CRM is what we built. That really smart CRM doesn't just rely on, oh, I enter data, it connects to our business app, right? So that view of a company is going to be very valuable to them when we've had an opportunity to show them what we have. I think that getting them on board does though rely on what can a VC actually mandate
Mhm.
in terms of usage. our goal is not to make anyone have to mandate anything, but
Mhm.
to actually show so much value and how being transparent can get us all to the next level. The VC getting ROI on their investment and the business actually growing so that they can get ROI on all of the activities
Mhm.
that they're doing. That's our ultimate goal. I think private equity firms fit into that same bucket. We'd like them. So I do believe that
It's a channel. It's a channel for it. Yeah.
that is a channel when we get to the point where we're out being able to show them this new tool
Yeah.
uh, that we've built.
So,
Yeah.
Tisha, what like when you see a team that's really using C model the way it's intended, are they kind of gathering once a quarter to talk about what they're going to do? Or they is when new ideas they it spurs them to jump in, or is it kind of like they're in there every week? Or what like what's the actual usage look like?
Yeah, so when this is interesting because we had a problem here in the beginning. This was one of our problem statements. Well, I'm intending for you to be looking at here every day. So the first thing that got you in is now that we see our users, we have some that are like every day because I'm so accustomed to it now. I just want to
Yeah,
kind of
but at
talk
the
you through.
beginning, what's the
And but in the beginning, it's a weekly consideration. So what it is we have a series of assessments that help to determine sort of your current state. Once you understand the current state, now you're constantly trying to see, well, where am I towards the goals too that I'm trying to get to? That becomes a every week leadership teams meet, right?
Mhm.
And can I make that meeting flow way more clearly because we're looking at here's where we are, here's the things that we said we were going to do, and we all kind of have the same vision and view of that. That makes a weekly meeting far more efficient and far more focused on how close are we to the milestone. So that's one use case. The other use case is I use it all the time because I want to know where I'm at if I've connected my data sources, for
Yeah, if you
example.
connect to data sources, yeah.
Right,
So
I kinda wanna know where I'm at, and so, it's a good use case to come in and then really assess where I'm at because I have the ability to use, our AI to assess that, and so we're seeing a variance today, but the most out people are is weekly, but we have some that are in there every day and some that are in every other day. It
right.
really just depends on, what they're doing, but what I do find is that when people start using our decision guides what they start to do is start to depend on the decision guide to manage change. Because all of a sudden, I was doing this and I see that it's not working. I see that I'm not hitting the goal, but I'm still working on these things.
Mhm.
What should I do differently becomes an immediate question. And the minute you start relying on a decision guide for that, all of a sudden you find yourself wanting to be in this tool every day, looking at is the stuff I'm doing actually producing value? And if it's not, then I should do something differently. So, oh, let me go see what would happen if I did something differently. And so that's the first step. What we predict is that over time, you start to get a daily because you start thinking about those everyday questions.
Right.
Can I do this? Should I do this? What would happen if I did it? So
Mhm.
it's the
Mhm.
goal.
Yeah, so it sounds like the tool is also kind of like a what if scenario, like how this is going to impact that. If I were to, drop this, how is that going to impact revenue if I added this in the short term versus long term? These are classic. Is that right, Tisha?
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Because these are really, you're right. Once once you get, I don't know what it is, more than four, five, six variables, and you're all holding them all in your head at one time. You're trying to think about. So this project is easy and it has modest amount of impact in the short term. Okay. So this one has a lot more impact. It's medium hard, but it's not going to be for 180 days.
Come
But
on.
this one, all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't know. What should I?
Right? So then you can start going, well, what do I prioritize?
Hmm.
Well, what are your values? What do you value? You start thinking, you say, well, where do you need to be?
Hmm.
Fastest, oh, well, our mission is X, or maybe you start going, well, my vision says that, I really want everyone to love everybody. I'm making that up.
Hmm.
Oh, well, doing this isn't going to get us there at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So why would I do that at all? right? Or maybe because that's my vision, even though this thing is like medium impact on this shorter term thing, I need to think about this longer term thing. So I might bump that up in priority, but putting it in front of somebody actually gives them the opportunity to think about it. And that's what we want. And when we start thinking critically, and you could, forgive me, I know no machine is going to think that level of critically for me, not today,
Yeah.
right? So I need to be able to do that. But what I can get from the machine is the information that's relevant right now based on where I am. And that's really our goal. So, yes, that's it. Too many scenarios to think through on my own. The machine helps me to think
Yeah.
through.
At least for my little pea brain. Yeah. I guess I max out and I can't
That's
hold
what
it.
most people do. Even
Yeah.
I max out too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Max. Yeah.
Um, the idea of being able to reason about, like we just to get wrap our hands around, our arms around enough things so we can together sit down and we can reason about this together and make a decision. Most of the time, there's not enough information in the right format for us to be able to um, do anything but kind of make a. Ultimately, we talked about it, and now we're going to make a gut decision.
It's an informed gut though, right? So I actually don't think it's anything wrong with your gut. I think
Yeah.
gut is good, right? Because gut is usually a reference to our experience.
Mm,
I've sat in a room and experienced something enough times that I can say, I believe this will work.
mhm,
But I should have some evidence of that that's just outside of the stuff that I intuitively think and believe because of this experience. It belongs in the room, my experience,
mm.
right? Does, but it belongs in the room matched alongside evidence and a firm understanding of where I'm at today.
Yeah, I think that's really good, teacher. Like basically affirming the gut, because this is what we were talking about before with founders, and it's actually true that this is a lot of times founders and others have a good feel for what this is why they're founders. They have they are probably right, or at least there's a good chance that's the reason they're founders because they have a knack. Um, but of course, people need to be able to follow along and understand it and be able to challenge things because it's not the gut isn't kind of um, uh, whatever. It's not perfect. So it can go.
And going back to my point about earlier, by the way, just in case anyone was offended, I'm not saying that founders don't know, right? But
Yeah,
that gut thing, if you really truly believe in something, you want to win. And when you want to win, you're not just going to lose just because your gut said, right? You're not going to live and die by your gut if your gut has been wrong. And we're all capable of being wrong.
yeah,
So the goal is to just be okay being transparent with information. So just in case you're wrong, you can make a correction and be right. You don't have to just be wrong. You don't have to wait till you fail, right? To end up making an adjustment to your
yeah,
behavior. And that's why I was saying, like, there are people who believe I already know. And I say, you're not a fit because I know a lot of stuff, but the things that I know, I'm very confident in it. I'm so confident. Let's check me for traps,
mhm,
right? Let me see how good I am,
mhm, mhm.
right? And that's kind of the idea there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of one of the things that I'll talk about with people sometimes is like that this is not what we're doing together is not because you're going to do completely the wrong thing. It's probably not, probably, but if we can take things from 85% bang on, even to 92% bang on over time, that is a huge gain. That is a huge differential. I mean, and to your point, I like this emphasis on high performance. But you think about elite athletes. I mean, they're pushing for the extra percent. They're pushing for that is the difference. That's what makes the difference. And so if we're kind of like, well, I kinda like to freewheel it, like, don't cramp my style. It's like, okay. It's Yeah, I mean, I like to play and I like to be in a beer league for when I play basketball too, because it's fun. I just drink beer afterwards. That's one way to be. That's one, like, level to get to, and that's fine. But there's other level too where you're like, "No, no, no. I'm gonna be, super precise and crisp and, take ourselves seriously and have fun along the way, of course." But I
Have
like it.
fun along the way, absolutely, because building a business should be fun, right? Growing and learning should be fun. It's not always fun, but there should be those moments where you get the benefit of your hard work, right? And you
Yeah,
get to experience that. I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah. Tisha, can I ask you this question? So, when you on a weekly basis, you talk about the leadership team getting together and talking about their things. Um, is it like a check-in reminder or something like that, like status, green, yellow, red, or like what? How do you capture on a weekly basis what's going on?
Yeah, so we have something that's a tool called a health assessment. So you get an opportunity to run that assessment, and that assessment can lead you to that call. That runs automatically as long as you're working in the tool and updating. There is a status button that's completely human activated,
Mhm.
right? Because, and that is something on track, off track, at risk. The
Right.
reason why we expect the human to fill that in per action is
Yeah.
because it's more than the data. So the data itself might say, things are off track. The data might be like, "Hey, you're not achieving the thing that's you're so far from the target." But that's not the truth on its own because there might be 20 things that you talked about or experienced or something a customer said or
Yeah.
something going on in the org that might tell you otherwise, or combined with a few different data points, that one data point is less relevant. And so a person checking that action, that strategy that we think it's pretty on track. As long as you can say why you believe that,
Yeah. Yeah.
all
It
of
can
a
also go the other way too, right? It also go the other way where like the metrics like, oh, it's green, green, green. No, it's not. I just got off a call,
this is
where
exactly right. Oh, it looks like we got 100 people in the door, but you don't have any more plans, right? Or you got 100 people in the door. Let's say it's a customer satisfaction one, right? So
yeah,
there's 100 people and they're satisfied today. If you mark that thing green for the course of like the outcome, the challenge there is that something could go wrong tomorrow
yeah.
and that thing is no longer green. So if you're like, we're all done, there could be a tremendous issue
You have to
later.
override it. Yeah, you have to have a human in the loop to be able to
A
add
human
things.
in the loop. We say we make the human in the loop. That is our intent, at least for now. We know that at some point machines are gonna do more and more and more. We're prepared for that, right? We're building machines that do more and more and more.
Mhm, mhm.
But the only thing that's gonna be left to do when companies, automate all the things that they can automate, all the repeatable and mundane tasks are done by the machine, is to create something new. And when you create something new, it comes from the human perspective. And
Yeah.
that's where our competitive edge is found, is in the things that we create that are new, not the repeatable mundane. And so I believe that for a long time, I'd venture to say forever, the human perspective in creating something new is going to be a requirement.
Well, the way that LLMs at least work guarantees that, right? It's, right, we're talking about averages, and so, anything new is not gonna come from there. Oh boy, we just got a bunch of AI enthusiasts and all hopping mad now. Okay, so
I
teach
love it. I mean,
me too, yeah, totally.
right, super important stuff.
So Tisha, let me stir the pot just a little bit. So I have this observation slash thesis that um I would much less sometimes I don't have a lot of faith in status updates
Okay.
because what can happen, right, is like let's say it's gonna take a quarter. What happens is on track, on track, on track, on track, fail. Right. Because yeah, what I personally put far more weight on is that there was a decision made about what I was going to try to do this week towards this goal and I did it. If that happens for 13 weeks, you're probably gonna there's a good chance, I mean, it's a wild and woolly world, we don't know for sure, but if I had to pick like, a status update where somebody says, yeah, it's green," versus somebody who did something every week, I would pick the did something. Do you agree with that?
I want you to say it again so that I can be clear. A
Yeah,
status update, status update, green, 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 and then someone did something?
yeah, versus, um, I created a task against this quarterly goal, and
Yeah.
I marked it as completed. That
Yeah.
gives me a lot more comfort versus the status update. And
Oh, they go
I guess be sorry, go ahead.
they go together. Like I don't imagine it's not just status update, status update, status update, and I never have tasks and goals. We believe there's a layer beneath our tool. Our tool is highly it's at the strategy layer.
Right, right,
Someone has to go execute all of that stuff. Now you
right,
gotta come back and say, our view into execution is through metrics in our tool. So there's a value of a metric associated with every action and every outcome. So that thing is moving a needle up and down.
right.
But in order for that to be happening at all, someone has to be doing something or there will be no movement.
Yeah, so you just say, "Look, this is" so Asana and Trello and Monday and all these kinds of things, these sit down here, and
Yes.
then, but C model's up here, and that's how we measure,
That's exactly right. So there's someone got has to be doing something. Now, if you're good, go ahead and connect your Asana. Great. We'll take it. No problem. Connect your Trello, whatever it is that you're using to manage your execution level tasks. It's
mm,
also but we care about the strategic level.
right, right. Cool. What's something that's coming down the pipe that you can share that you're excited about? What's happening next for C model?
Man, I love that question. So one of the things is there is I mean, we're working. We're in the city of Birmingham and we're working with a number of the ecosystem partners here to support the businesses here in moving along the business growth journey. And
Mm,
so the impact of that is, of course, true economic development, but our technology is powering much of the work that's going on in organizing the ecosystem. So we're very excited about that.
oh, yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
That's um, you talked about having fun along the way, but this is what that makes me think about is, having, meaning along the way too. Not that, all the things that we normally do for just, business as usual is not meaningful. Of course it is. But, when you're getting involved in the community like that, that's a special way of accessing that meaning. That's awesome.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, one of the questions I said, and we can wrap up here, but one of the questions I sent ahead of time was, how does your company help? How does your product help a company execute? And we basically talked about it the whole time. It's really interesting. This is like, it's been really interesting to talk to you, Tisha. We have a lot of shared interests and, um, problem space, and so it's been wonderful to chat.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great rest of the day, Tisha.
Thank you. Talk soon.